We have just won 2-1 against Crystal Palace, where, you know, if they did beat us, which in the first half, I think many of us might have thought, oh, could it be 3 in a row? Yeah, that's right. It would have been 3 in a row. Smash the likes, especially if you're gassed, because we're going on another winning run. Newcastle next, lads and ladettes. Hey. But anyways, look, get the likes going, all of that good stuff. Got a bit of a sore throat because I was undoubtedly celebrating that Sesko goal like he was my own son, even though I don't have one. I'm over the moon. You know what? Big up Bruno Fernandes for the 100 assist club, because that's just not easy to achieve whatsoever. But let's just go into the first half, right? I have to. We have to. Let's just get all the negatives out of the way, right? Let's just admit to ourselves that first half was abysmal. Especially coming off the back of maybe a couple performances that haven't been great. You know, I feel like Michael Carrick has this knack of great half-team talks, potentially. You know, he seems to know how to get the players going. The first half is simple. I don't really want to label Lenny Yoro out too tough, because that defending was, yeah, it was lackluster. It was shocking. All of that stuff. But young, learning, no need to be negative on him too tough. It just can't happen regularly. It's as simple as that, because it puts us on the back foot when we just don't need to be, especially when we don't deserve to be 1-0 down. And you know what? It could have been 2, it could have been 3, you know, but that's probably another conversation, probably for more of a breakdown, because I just want to get into the gas feeling of this all. You know, Cunha, Mazraoui, Luke Shaw coming off injured. Now we've got no left-hand side. We're going to talk about Mazraoui as well and his importance. So stay tuned in for this video for that, because I need to mention it, and I don't feel like many people will on their own reactions. But that first half just shows what it can be, and the second half show what it continue to be in terms of, you know, second half FC at this point. We need to score more goals. We need to get into the rhythm, and we need to play faster. And I'm sure that was Michael Carrick's message. Cunha, etc. It was just giving away the ball. And it's not just him. It was pretty much everyone. Everyone gave away the ball. It was poor, to say the least. It was a pretty much 2 out of 10 performance. Kind of reminded me a little bit of the Fulham game in the first half. It wasn't coming together. And then, of course, we got a little bit of luck. But in terms of selection, this is my only criticism, and let me know in the comments if you have a criticism of Michael Carrick, constructive at that. My only thing is starting lineups are quite confusing, to say the least. You know, in the last couple games, don't get me wrong, you know, bringing off a player off the bench, him scoring, great impact player. But sometimes you got to look at a player and say, is he better as an impact sub, or is he better as a starter? And that's where I'm having a certain question over certain personnel. Now, not having Ahmad in the side kind of told me that it might be a bit of an easy run for Crystal Palace, at least to start off with. I wasn't enthusiastic, because Ahmad is the most natural wide player that we have got available. When you got Cunha and Mbeumo, they want to go into the spaces, of course, inside, more time than less. And especially when Luke Shaw gets injured, you'd think you'd put Mbeumo on the left just to create a little bit of width. And of course, Carrick didn't do that. Thanks to their red card, it kind of just unraveled itself. But without Ahmad starting in the team, I'm not saying he hasn't been exactly great, because I don't think he has been in the last couple of games against Everton or West Ham. It's just, again, it's creating the pitch to make it as wide as possible. You know, Delo doing the line is perfect and all when he can put in some good deliveries, but today showed Bruno why he's still the best crosser of the ball that we have in the team. So I was looking at it like that, and I was saying this might be a little bit negative, because the way Palace set up, we all know this, Glasner. They love to play with a low block, and they love to hit you on a counter. They've got very good technical footballers that can hurt you. And we were absolutely getting bopped in the first half. But guess what? We got the win, so we don't care. But we were getting outplayed. Simple. Casemiro, Kobe being fantastic duo. Didn't really have much to do with them today, but I thought our line was way too deep. And again, it was like players were taking a little bit too long to think about what to do, where to be. And it wasn't cohesive whatsoever. But then let's get onto the positive sides of it all. Is in the second half, whatever Carrick did say in the dressing room, I'm sure he said, lads, this is way too slow. Yeah, you lot are much better footballers than this. This is Crystal Palace. Where do you want to be at the end of the season? You can either sit here sulking, wondering why it's going wrong at one another, or you can go out there and you can push Manchester United into the place it should be, into the bare minimum, which is Champions League. Bare minimum. Great opportunity for good PR spin if we do end up being third in by the end of today, you know? And that's exactly what that was. Because in the second half, and I noticed this because Palace do this quite a lot. They start off well for about 30 minutes. And I noticed that there was a drop-off because they looked knackered. They played pretty much the same team in midweek on Thursday in the Europa Conference League. And you see that United got more control. And United's control was down to one man before their red card. Did anybody notice Mazraoui's impact? Because I did. Because Luke Shaw hasn't had great games either. And I just thought Mazraoui coming inside and playing a little bit more close to Casemiro and also just doing a little bit more link up after Cunha was getting absolute belters from Michael Carrick to stay wide. The control came back a little bit. And you saw the front three, bar Sesko, rotating quite a lot. You know, it wasn't really Bruno Fernandes up to Sesko. It was Sesko, Cunha and Bumo all interchanging. And that really gave some control back to United. And in the second half, pretty much impact. You know, when we playing through balls, it was going straight into the striker's feet. Sesko had a couple touches straight away. In Bumo as well, couple good touches in dangerous areas straight away. When he cut inside, did anyone think I was going to rock the back of the net? Because I did. I really thought that it could have been something, but it didn't. He just passed backwards and we had a different shot. And, you know, Mazraoui and Cunha getting away with each other. But after that, it was Cunha, you know, pretty much for me, you know, he's the impact that we needed. And a little bit of, again, ill concentration from Lacroix, you're going to probably come into it and say, oh, no, you know, that's not a red card. How was that a foul? He dragged him from outside the box. Last time I checked, when he dragged him, yeah, because the last point of contact was also on the line, which includes it's a penalty. And if you're going to go by DOGSO, DOGSO, by the laws of the game, you know, that's a penalty. Simple as that. And it's a red card. With that, that's the whole point of the rules. You know, you're denying a goal-scoring opportunity because he was going to get to that. And that's the sort of areas that he thrives in and gets his goals. So, yes, it was a red card. And for me, yes, it was a penalty because I'm going to be heavily biased because I don't give a crap. But here we are. And then after that, I think Bob's your uncle. You know, I think players just started to play more in tune. Of course, 10 men's a little bit easier to play against. I thought Palace defended quite decent, but I must say, Dean Henderson saved the day for them. It could have been 4-5. Casemiro missed 2 absolute sitters. The volley, the header in the first half. You know, you could even argue that Xerxes should have scored maybe 1, maybe 2. Maybe Ahmad could have got on a score sheet. You know, there was a lot of opportunities. And that's what happens when United do start playing with a bit more intensity. You start opening up the game and there's a lot more gaps. And a lot of players got a lot of run out. And that's what I'm happy with because midweek, you got Heaven that came on, which is nice to see. Finally getting some trusted minutes. Xerxes coming on with a good, 10, I think 15 minutes, little run out. You know, Sesko getting a goal. Look, we could dive into all of that, but Michael Carrick's management today was spot on. You know, even bringing on Ahmad for that extra bit of control because they knew Palace were going to go for it. You know, he's going to alleviate a lot of pressure. Same as Xerxes, a focal point coming on. But let's talk about that man. You know, the man that, you know, I used to slag off left, right, and center. I'm going to hold my hands up, especially if you're a new subscriber. Bruno Fernandes accolades. Yeah, the penalty was just the penalty, Bruno Fernandes. But Bruno Fernandes showed up today in that second half because that ball to Sesko, oh my word. That is what I'd be missing in the Premier League for so long, especially at Manchester United. When you put in a delicious cross like that and a big man, target man, can get his body across to dominate the centre-back and put the header where he put it, he is a freak, and I'm so happy for him. Now he's scored, 3-4 goals in a row? I think he's got 6 goals in 2026. And bear in mind, he's barely had any minutes. So goal-to-game ratio, I think he's top of the bracket at the moment. And long may it continue, because we've got Newcastle next who look very, very vulnerable. Sesko just keeps hitting heights. And Bruno Fernandes keeps hitting those milestones for himself. Now, it's over. Now we can just get the Bruno that can play more for the team again. Because let's be real, last couple games, he's been playing for that assist. But there's another couple players I'll kind of want to talk about. Because he used to be our captain, and I thought he was... If it wasn't for, obviously, the non-clean sheet, I thought he was man of the match. And see Harry Maguire, Big H, they call him. Big head. That man was absolutely sublime. And you can see the difference that he's making in our back line at the moment. Whether it's a World Cup year because he wants that extra motivation or because he ain't got the armband. But since he hasn't had the armband, he's been quite mint, hasn't he? Like for me, he's winning all the duels that Euro couldn't win. You know, he on the ground as well, he was driving the ball through the center of the park. You see him sometimes on the right-hand side. I don't even know if he gave the ball away at any point. But he was magnificent. He dealt with Strand Larsen very, very easily. And I thought he needs some plaudits because I just thought like if it wasn't for him today, we would have been struggling. And you know what? Even Diogo Dalot, again, not being the greatest in the last maybe couple of weeks to the standard that we kind of held him to, but them two on the right-hand side, they were... I mean, Dalot gave the ball away a couple of times, don't get me wrong. But there's that little partnership for me, you know, when Maguire swaps over to the right-hand side and Euro's not on the right-hand side, and it was only in moments they do swap over. I just think he's more suited to it than the left-hand side. We play the ball a little bit more quick, but... You know, Maguire's been playing left centre back, Euro's been playing right, but they swapped over for Strand Larsen. So again, I think we maybe we rode a little bit of luck today. I don't know what you guys think, but top three, baby. Top three, baby. Not that it's a trophy, but we need bragging rights. Bragging rights are important. So yeah, man, big up to the players today. Big up to the fans because you lot were singing pretty much. I'm going to say for the first half, a little quiet, but after that, it was rocking, especially after the first goal. Can't wait, man. Bring on the midweek. Obviously, we're not playing next weekend, so guess what? More rest for us. More rest for us. Smash the like, subscribe if you're brand new, and we're going to do a live later at 9 p.m, so look out for that.